Hello, everybody. It's 6:38 p.m. Central Time on the 31st of October, 2022. It's Halloween. Hope you're doing well. We've got the stream decorated. It's a yearly thing. We start with Halloween. We go through to Christmas. We do Easter. We do New Year's. We decorate the stream. The Duchess decorates the stream. I go along with it. The house is decorated, not with too much Halloween stuff. We've got the fall-autumn activity going on here with the Duchess and her thing. Man, I'll tell you what, I have no decorating capability at all. But we're not here to talk about stream decorations. We're here to talk about earthquakes. And I've got some earthquakes to talk about. And man, wait till you see what's going on. So let's just go ahead and open up a display capture so you can see what I see ever so slightly better. If you're new here, let me just quickly tell you, we're using Earthquake 3D, the program. I don't get anything for recommending it, but you should use something like it to show you the earthquakes on a 2 to 3 day basis instead of the USGS site, which just shows you somewhat US earthquakes and some 4s and 5s maybe they choose to report internationally, but you need to use multiple feeds to see what's going on. This is 48 hours worth of earthquakes. We talked yesterday about New Zealand looking for activity. All the warnings still stand. This is 1 day in on my forecast, but there's some things that have developed that we have to address, and I'm going to go over past the West Pacific where we have a stepping stone path of 5s that reaches all the way out to a stepping stone path of 4s that goes all the way out over to Europe. And this is what we need to talk about. Now, let me get a USGS plate boundary map open so we can talk about Europe in regards to the plate boundaries. Now, what I just told you about the earthquakes coming out of the West Pacific, going up across over to the Middle East, across Iran and Saudi Arabia and the Red Sea, and then going back up into Europe. Look at the red lines there. Those are the plate boundaries. And that's the path the earthquakes took. We went up, over, across, and now we are in Europe. Look at this. Out in front of all of this activity, or really downstream from, pointing to it, all the arrows pointing to it, into Italy, a new deep 5.1 to 5.5 reported by the USGS and the EMSC. We're going to go over and show you where the earthquake is reported. We're going to talk about this because I am questioning the magnitude on this deep earthquake. Let me take you back in time several years. There was a deep 5.8 earthquake, which struck down below the Tyrrhenian Sea out here, just a little bit more offshore than the current 5.1 to 5.5, depending on who you go with. Again, USGS has it at 5.5. Europeans have it at 5.1. But several years ago, a 5.8 struck here. I issued a warning for 1 magnitude larger earthquake to strike to the north on the plate boundary. And so a deep 5.8, 1 magnitude larger, put it to 6.8. And it, of course, when you issue a warning for a huge earthquake in Europe, many people pay attention. And my warning went to people who are viewers in Italy, and they actually went around town and told people to prepare. In central Italy, where I issued the warning, in the Abruzzo range, in central Italy. Let me show you where I issued the warning. See Abruzzo? At North Abruzzo, up here there's a place called Norcia, South Umbria. Norcia, small town, is the spot that was the center where I warned. Anyway, they went and warned their mayor and went around town and told people slept in their cars that night. The next day, the earthquake hit, the 6.8. It was the biggest earthquake in Italy in 40 years. So the day before that, though, we had our deep 5.8 down below the location. Well, now it's a 5.5, and it's slightly in a different location. It's not out here on the red arrow. Instead, it's very close to land. And I'm wondering if it really is a 5.1 or a 5.5. The reason I'm wondering is because of what just happened the other day over here. A 6.0 earthquake struck out here where I issued a warning, and the USGS, weird stuff started to happen, guys. I don't want to get too much into it other than to tell you, first the earthquake was ignored, then it was deleted, then it was downgraded, then it was reposted as a smaller earthquake. So if they can delete a 6 on the coast of Japan, what can they do with deep earthquakes? Well, I think they could take a 3 and make it a 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to issue a watch on this instead of a warning. So there's a slight difference between a watch and a warning, and when it comes to weather or meteorology, well, not a slight difference. There's actually a pretty big difference. A watch is an area that you're going to watch out for something to possibly happen, whereas a warning, it has happened or it's getting ready to imminently happen. You've spotted a storm, there's a tornado on the ground, that's a warning. As opposed to a watch, you could have a clear day and it could form. So I'm questioning this earthquake on the magnitude. And so it matters if it's a 5.5, we would see up to 1 magnitude larger. That would make a 6.5 to come in between all of our current earthquakes where all the rings overlap. And where all the rings overlap on this, I think even the untrained eye should be able to see that they're overlapping on central Italy. And if we zoom in on the area where they're all overlapping, I could turn on our actual, street view or satellite view. Let's do the street view because that'll tell us the names of the places. We're going to zoom in here. And, there it is. So, look, if we're going to issue a warning for central Italy and we zoom in and the spot is Norcia again for the second time, I have to issue the warning for central Italy. Anywhere from L'Aquila or La Aquila up through, let's just say, all the way up to Florence. But a watch, different than a warning. I don't want you to sleep in your cars tonight. I don't want you to freak out and think that it's an imminent coming earthquake, because there's some question on this. The professionals and their reporting of earthquakes. The EMSC and the USGS. Geophone Potsdam and all of them. I'm questioning. It doesn't mean that we have to ignore the earthquake. It means we have to look at it with raised eyebrows. Which means I'm still going to watch for up to a 6.5. But if it doesn't hit, I'm going to go back and go through the fine details on this quake, try to figure out who reported it, what the actual everything is on it. The time frame on this is up to 7 days. 7 days to 10 days on deep earthquakes, depending on how many there are. And I would say 7 days we would watch on this, which would put us to about November 7th. So by November 7th, if nothing has struck, I will consider this either A, an erroneous reported deep earthquake, or B, a real deep earthquake that had no effect. But the last time one hit here, the last time one struck, it was about a day later that we saw the shallower, larger earthquake, 1 magnitude larger. Last time it was a deep 5.8, resulting in a shallow 6.8, the biggest in 40 years for Italy, devastating towns. But the only good news on that quake back then was that the people got the warning, which was a warning. I issued a warning and said, you guys got to be ready for this. But I am so worried about what the professionals are doing that it's influencing, I think, a little bit whether or not I want to issue a warning on this. Because I doubt now on the accuracy of the magnitudes of the quakes and so forth based upon what I've experienced. It's different than when it was several years ago. The professionals are totally paying attention and they're altering the earthquakes. They are. And if you don't believe that they're altering the earthquakes, you can just consult with people in the chat room who've seen it with me. You'd have to think that us, all thousands of us, are all delusional, but we're not. Of course, we've seen this happen. So people in chat room, press 1 if you've seen them alter and change earthquakes beyond a reasonable measure, or delete them when it hits in areas where we're talking about. Okay, so that being said, a spread of earthquakes leads right to it. It's out in front of it. Now, I also have to talk about Poland. We issued a warning for Poland to be on watch for up to 5.0, and instead a 4.0 hit, or a 3.8, 3.9 in South Poland. I also have to talk about where we issued our warning for our 5.5. Yes, I issued a warning for a 5.5, and I issued a warning for a 5.5 at the Ionia range of Greece, of western Greece. I issued the warning a day and a half, 2 days ago, told them to watch right here. How far off are we? I already measured it. It's 240 miles. 240 from the Ionia range here at western Greece, right along the shores, over to the 5.5 that just hit here. So is that the earthquake we were looking for? Well, if it's accurate, yes. I issued a warning for a 5.5 right here. See where it says Ionia? Right here along the coast. And the earthquake hit on the other side of the plate boundary, 240 miles to the west. 40 miles outside of my bubble of a warned zone. And I'm trying to get it down to 200 miles for forecasting purposes, just so I can finally leave and sign off. The ultimate goal of my forecasting is to get it down to 200 miles. So far, we're doing pretty good. We're 40 miles outside of the 200 warned area, and we are right on the other side of the plate boundary. If this 5.5 had hit over here, I would then warn up around Eastern Europe, Romania, Poland, Netherlands, and UK, and the English Channel. Instead, the earthquake struck on the western side of the plate boundary, which should prefer up the plate boundary and over to the western side of Europe, out towards the mid-Atlantic ridge, and Iceland south to Azores. And so that's what should happen when it strikes to the west of the plate boundary. I want you to think of this deep earthquake, if it's accurate, like a person lifting up on the underside of something. And I'm going to turn on our shell feature, which is going to show a big dome going out around the quake. Do you see that? Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's in orange there. There we go. And look where the perimeters go to. They go out to Turkey, they go down into North Africa, and they go all the way over here out towards Gibraltar, Portugal. They spread up across the UK, through Wales, in between Ireland and UK, goes across North England, and then back across the Scandinavian countries, back through Russia, back down and across into Turkey. So when a deep earthquake like this happens, we don't just look right next to it. We look at the perimeters around and downstream, which looks like UK, Portugal, and North Africa up into Morocco. Back behind it, we go to Turkey, pretty much. You could also say the Red Sea. Now, I do want to point something out about the Red Sea, which, if you don't know where the Red Sea is, let me show you. Right here. Here's the Red Sea. Comes up, goes up to Egypt, and then goes up into, we have the Nile River right there. Okay, anyway. So, going across this area, we had an earthquake a day and a half ago down here. Now look what's hit. Wait, there it is. 5.2, marked in red. Now 3 days ago, I'm sorry. 3 days ago, 5.2 hit. Then this morning, 4.2 hit downstream, spreading over to the west. Now look what else hit. A 4.2 went up the Carlsberg Ridge, number 7 shaped Carlsberg Ridge, and struck up here on the north side. So it's two 4.2s going around in two directions, which meet back up with a 4.4 that just struck about an hour ago. 2 hours ago. No, 5 hours ago. Jeez. Anyway, these two struck first, two 4.2s. Add them together. Guess what it equals? 4.4. 4.2 plus 4.2. Pretty easy to add together. You add the points. Just like common addition. 2 plus 2 is 4. Now, the 4 plus 4 doesn't equal 8. You keep the 4. You just add the decimal points on the back end. That's how we add. So 4.2 plus 4.2 equals 4.4 combined. It's like two rivers flowing back together where they meet up in Turkey. So down below it, it's a big deal down below Europe. I want you to be ready for up to 6.1 to 6.5, depending on if we go with the Europeans. We would look for 1 magnitude larger. That would be 6.1. If we go with the USGS, we look for 1 magnitude larger. That would be up to 6.5. And that's if this is accurate. If the deep earthquakes are accurate. Now, let's talk about South America. Look at this triangular-shaped spread of 5s going across the whole South American continent. And in the middle, that's where our 6 struck. This is the last 2 days, 3 days worth of quakes. It's pretty obvious. North side, 5.5. And I'm going to show you one more thing. The deep earthquake down below the center of it all. Deep earthquake down below the center. Next to it, big break in Peru. Now look who got hit. North Peru at the Ecuador border. I'm going to turn on the shell again, because the shell from our deep earthquake goes right up and around and directly underneath this. So this 5.5 on the north side is directly below the perimeter of the shell of the bubble that I showed you a day ago, going up to the north. Down to the south, it's slightly off. So we have a 5.8 out in the ocean. A new 3.9 has just been reported here, by the way. 5.8 out in the ocean on the stair-step fracture zone that goes down to the south and goes over to South Sandwich Islands. South Sandwich Islands, check it off the list. 5.8 coming across, check it off the list. That's the same size that's going over in the other direction, 5.5 to 5.8, and then 5 spreading out from that down to New Zealand, for instance. Same side, or same size, different side, 5.5 to 5.8, going down to a 5 down at the South Sandwich. Going back to the USGS map, check this out. South Sandwich Islands down here. Let's get back to it. 5 down here. 5.8 up here. And going around up on the north side. 5.5. Next stop, we should see another 5. Just like down here to the south. Up here to the north, spreading around on the north side. Through the Caribbean and Venezuela. I have not checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center list all day today. So maybe we should go check that, see who's on the list. Oh, wait. Wow, hold on. Bagana volcano's on the list over in Papua New Guinea. That's on top of Langila. Okay, so Bagana's back. 7,000 foot high blast. Chivaluche up in Russia. Sanjay in Ecuador. Popocatépetl in Mexico. Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. How high of a blast did that go? Let's see. 20,000. Surface to FL200. Suwanee-Zajima. Bagana again. A 9,000 foot high blast on that one. Ebico in the Kuril Islands. Sabancaya in Peru. Chivaluche again, of course. Bagana again. Ebico again. 10,000 foot. Bagana again. Wow, okay. Now, let's just go over and show you. Bagana hasn't been on the list in God knows how long. Langila just showed up the other day over here. So now we have Langila and Bagana both going, and Mount Manam was on the list yesterday. Manam is just over to the west. That's 3 now, going right here, where we were looking for our big earthquake to strike no more than 5 days ago. Now it's 3 volcanoes going in the middle, guys. 3 that we don't normally see, right where I issue the warning for that 8. You gotta be kidding me, man. Let me show you. Hold on. I'm sorry. I got to talk about this. I was looking for an 8.0 earthquake to pop off right here in the Solomon Islands going over to Vanuatu. And now right here, Manam is right here. Hasn't been on the list in months. Langila is right. Well, let's see if I can even find it. There it is. Langila is right here. And Bagana is right. I know it's in here somewhere. Or is it not marked? It might not be marked. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just, it's like right here at the center of the screen. I'm just missing it. Bagana. Well, you know what? Google's my friend, right? It's just right off the right side of the screen. So really, it's right there. Again, I went from here to here for the 8, and boom, boom, boom. 3 volcanoes right across the center that haven't been on the list in a long time. It's been months since any one of them has been on the list. And I want to say it's been a few years since all 3 of them have been on the list at once with volcanic ash advisories. Ibu just put off a 11,000 foot high blast, which is actually fairly big for Mount Ibu, which is right next to this. Mount Ibu is right here where the letter V is. So that is definitely worth mentioning. Back over to it. South America. Look, I mean, with a spread like this going out in all directions from the center, and I've got a warning going in the center for up to 6.9. I'm not canceling the warning. All of it's moving all the way around. Again, this is the dead center of where we have the warning going. Look what's going on all sides now. You might be able to notice there's one part of the planet that's missing 4 and 5.0 level activity. I guess we're just high and dry. You know, no 4s out in the ocean, no 5s out in the ocean. Must be nice, huh? Sitting over here, we kick back up on our lawn chair, put our feet up, start catching some rays. What are you guys talking about? There aren't any 4s and 5s striking out in the ocean out off the coast of the United States. Totally quiet. I don't know about all that. You can see the activity going across the rest of the frickin' plate. Sure is quiet out in the ocean for it. All this activity on land. It's almost like the earthquakes aren't getting reported out in the ocean or something. They would never do that. They would never hide an earthquake, would they, Dutch? Well, except for the one they did the other day. They would never hide earthquakes out in the ocean so you don't see earthquakes going across the whole plate. Because if you saw a 5 out in the ocean or a 4 or something, and then you saw a bunch of 3s and 2s go across the plate, you might start to put 2 and 2 together that there's a flow going from the west to the east. And man, that shoots a hole in everything they said. The professionals. So, I don't know. Are we really quiet out in the ocean out there? Are there really no 4s and 5s for a whole freaking week out in the ocean? When we have a 5 on land, we have a 5 across. Come on. It's so obvious they're hiding earthquakes out in the ocean. They don't want you to see a connection between the earthquakes out in the ocean and what goes across the United States, that they're last freaking clinging on to hope. They're literally like a person that's fallen out of a car while it's moving, and they've got their fingers wedged in on the freaking rubber edging of the windowsill of the car. You ever see that? And we're going to be going around a corner here in a minute. They're not going to be able to hold on. I keep giving my hand, reaching out, trying to get them to come back in. They won't. Yeah. They got this, you know. So what's going on? A line of earthquakes is going down the edge of the North American craton. Check it out. It goes from Colorado down to New Mexico, down over to Texas, and back up into right at the border of Kansas. And I mean, we are right at the border of Kansas now. I have a warning going for western Kansas into the panhandle of, well, really at the center of all these rings, right here, for up to 4.0 level activity. Should come in pretty soon. Also have a warning in the New Madrid seismic zone and on the East Coast for the same level of activity, near 4.0. We're already there. 3.5 plus all these 2s takes us up to upper 3s worth of energy going across the whole edge of the craton. But this craton thing, guys, I got to stress it. I can't stress it enough. It's one of my biggest discoveries, that the flow goes out of Colorado down to Texas, over to Oklahoma, and every one of these in Texas, Colorado, and Oklahoma are drill points. Do you want to see the one in Colorado? It's right on the edge of the craton down at Trinidad. So let's go look up all the pumping operations in southern Colorado. Oh, wow, hey, they don't even say southern Colorado. They're doing this with a lot of the oil pumping operation earthquakes. They don't tell you the town or anything nearby because, man, you go look at this on the feed, it's just going to say Colorado. You won't know where in Colorado it is. If it said Trinidad, Colorado, enough researchers know that Trinidad is the pumping operation. So don't list Trinidad. See all of these? Here's our earthquake epicenter right here. And I have marked on the hilltops these. Do you see the shadow of the jack of the pump there? That's just one of them. Every one of these little pads in the ground here that goes on for miles and miles and miles on the mountaintops are oil wells. Some of them, they built sheds over the jack or the pump just to protect it from the elements. But it's the whole mountain range has been done this way. All these little pads. I'll just randomly zoom in on one. Jack, pump, tank, pipeline, so forth. Natural gas fracking. And they've done the whole range here down to the border and beyond, down into New Mexico. And it keeps going and going and going all the way around here. It also goes along the border this way. And you get over here, and it's insane overdrive drilling once you get right to about here. So Chimney Rocks, south of Pagosa Springs, all of this is insanity drilled. And I mean insanity. Look at all the little specks on the ground here. They've just destroyed the environment out here. And it goes on and on and on and on and on, over and over and over, right to the Colorado border. And this is old imagery. They may have done more since. But this is Colorado side of the border on the north side. This is New Mexico on the south side. Do you see that? And it goes all the way over to the Four Corner Junction there. The drill points. Through the desert. Through the mountains. Through the farm fields. And up into Colorado. Now, NASA detected a huge amount of methane in the atmosphere here, and they couldn't figure out, they said, where it was coming from. They have a satellite up that detects methane from, like, natural sources, and they had a huge, massive pocket coming up from the Four Corners area, and they said they needed to study it to figure out where it's coming from. I mean, come on, man. Everything south and west of Pagosa Springs is just screwed. So, drill-wise. The environment, look, I mean, it's miles down. It's not going to cause any problems up at the surface. You don't have to worry about that. Just like down in Texas. Down in Texas, you want to go see the biggest earthquake of the bunch down in Texas? Oh, wow, look, it just says southern Texas. Did the USGS stop triangulating from towns? Let's go see. No, look. Just at the oil pumping operations, they're doing it. Look at that. Look how awkward that is. Every other one's like 11 kilometers west-southwest of Tortora or 12 kilometers of Red Rock, Oklahoma, or whatever. But then you get in here to where it's protected, where they're paying for this. Somebody's paying for that, man. Oil companies paying for that. Something. There's no way they're just going to do that by random. Let's go and zoom in. Southern Texas. Look at this. Look at the size of this. Look at these pumping operations here. They're insane. Every one of these little white pads on the ground is a different pumping op. Let's keep going. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Keep them puppies rolling. Come on, guys. Rawhide. We're going along the edge of the Craton all the way around it. You see the Craton edge there, do you? Can you see it? Looky here. You see that? See that Craton edge? Now look at it. It goes down through and back up into Dallas. It looks like a river, doesn't it? It's really a bulge. This is 1,000 feet higher than this over here. You rise 1,000 feet between here at 494 feet above sea level and here at 1776. So you go from 400 up to 1,700, and it's like that all the way across here. This goes through Big Bend, Texas, where there's a bunch of volcanoes down here on the edge. Volcanic fields that go back up this way. You see them? Anyway, all this volcanic on the edge of the Craton down to the south, and we curl back around up into New Mexico and back up into Colorado. Okay? Eastern edge of the Craton. Georgia got hit. Check it off the list if you were keeping track of areas that I warned. Georgia got hit at Zebulon, Dennis, and Phoenix. Right in between the triangle of all three. Zebulon, Dennis, and Phoenix, Georgia. Dennis is my mother's maiden name. Zebulon is a mysterious name that I could tell you a wonderful story about. And Phoenix is an occult symbol worshipped by certain secret societies who also worship the names Zebulon and Jabulon. I wonder what the chances are. There's Phoenix. There's Dennis. Here's Zebulon. Phoenix, Zebulon, Dennis. And we're smack in the middle of the triangle of the three. Now, I'm not smack in the middle of a triangle of anything. I'm not into that weird stuff, but they are. And who are they? Don't ask, unless you really want to know. But what I am noticing is all the power lines around it. That's pretty interesting. You know, they do this power line stuff when they're trying to capture geomagnetic energy. Power company actually takes that and resells it to the public. Anyway, is there any kind of power generation down here is the true question. And I'll tell you, there is some kind of dam. And it does look like they have some kind of electrical apparatus here, but that doesn't look big enough to be generating a lot of power, maybe. Maybe that's bringing power to it to, control the dam, the lock and dam, or whatever you want to say. But it is a big enough body of water that I would think they would have some kind of power generation along it. But I can't find, all the power lines go right into here. But I don't see any kind of power station or nuclear power plant. Instead, this looks like some kind of water treatment plant, maybe. I don't know. Don't know too much about the area, but what I do know is if I see three things like that, if I see my mother's maiden name next to Zebulon, next to Phoenix, dude, I'm getting the hell out of there. I'm not going back. That's about as bad as the earthquake that struck below Mason, Ohio, and then a day later struck below Mason High School next to it. Pretty weird. I don't want to talk about it. Let's go up to the north. Start getting into that weird stuff. Yeah, oh yeah, there's an earthquake weird stuff connection. Oh yeah, definitely. You don't even want to know about it. There's a reason too. It's because that stuff's real. Let's zoom in and see where we are. We're right next to a military base of all things. See this right here? Big military base. All of this. What's the name of it though? I don't exactly know. Let's find out. Fort Jackson. Now this is a training base, but look, this is earthquake down below, far down below. We do have quarries next to the base, but this is far below those. Quarries can induce seismic activity by creating man-made faults. But there may be other things that are around here that we might want to pay attention to in regards to creating earthquake activity, such as the giant triangular mound
with an antenna on the top. And I say triangular because they put these at the three sides of it, and the military base right next to it. Hashtag Tartaria. So you put a big transmitter on top of a triangular-shaped mound next to a quarry, next to a military base. Gee, the combination of all three right there tells you that there's something there. Maybe the triangular shape of the whole valley and the military base right in the middle of, or at the pinnacle tip of. What are the chances of that? I just noticed that right there for the first time ever, that this forms a giant triangle. Boy, enough triangles to sink a battleship. Hope we don't have any battleships sunk out here in the test out in the ocean that should be happening this week. Let's go back out into the West Coast and just take a look and see what's hit over on the West Coast. Look at all the smaller earthquakes. Man, a lot of weird shit's going on, guys. I'm a little weird too, but man, this is pushing the level of believability at this point. So Yellowstone's got a swarm. Now, I was sent a video and several people, I don't know if they were viewers, I almost called them viewers, but just several people left comments asking me about this video that's been circulating for the last day and a half on YouTube, saying that the park has been closed and that it's going to erupt and that there's uplift going on, and that the uplift is why they closed the park. Well, tomorrow being November 1st, or just a few hours from now being November 1st, every year on November 1st, the park closes most of the roads. You got to understand, Yellowstone attracts international tourists from around the world, several of which who have never been in any kind of snow or ice, or at least they've never been in any kind of driving situation with snow or ice. People coming from all over the world, warm climates especially. And, or they will take rental cars themselves, or they will get on a bus with many other tourists and go right around in the park. Well, guess what doesn't handle too well in ice and snow? Buses. Also, foreigners in tourists that are in rental cars. So they close a lot of the roads. Now, Yellowstone got a tremendous amount of flooding this past year. That also closed several roads. So with the roads that are closed and the bridges that are washed out, that's why the roads are closed. They're not going to be replacing the bridges for several years because apparently funding for the Park Service got cut or something, so they could send money to Ukraine. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, that's why they did it. They cut so they could send it to them. Anyway, so now they can't rebuild the bridges for a year or two, so those roads are closed. It's not a conspiracy. Literally, you can go see the bridges that are washed out. Well, now you can't because the roads are closed to them. But they do this every year. They close most of the roads in the park. Now, you can still go there. The park is open year-round. They have a lodge there, but it gets booked up real quick because nobody wants to camp out in the freezing cold. It gets sub-zero up there. It's like 7,000 feet above sea level, guys. It's mountain high. It's higher than Denver. I don't know exactly how high it is. Here, let me go tell you. It's I went up there in the summertime and we got ice on our tent. And in June, ice on the tent. We're at 8,466 feet above sea level here. Going down in the valley where you're at 7,800 feet above sea level. Anyway, most people don't know that. So they don't realize that it's way high above sea level and that it gets completely frozen and they don't plow jack shit. And you have to get out of your car to go walk a mile around, or half mile to a mile around each feature. And each feature has wooden planked walkways, which they don't shovel or salt. Now, you got stupid tourists out there, and they're going to be walking over boiling hot things, boiling hot, huge pools. They have these wooden walkways that go over, covered in ice. You know how your deck gets when it gets covered in ice? You ever step out on your deck when it's covered in ice? Whoops, whoop. Dude, you have to have literally spikes on your feet to walk on wood that's frozen. So that's why they close it. It's not closed due to uplift. This place uplifts and downlifts, or whatever you want to call it, downfalls, sinks, subsides every year, and it'll do it a lot. And the more it uplifts, guess what happens? Earthquakes. As the uplift happens, earthquakes happen. As it deflates, not as many earthquakes. But it's breathes like a giant, and you'll see it. Just take deep breath, or a deep inhalation of power, and you'll see the earthquakes go up, and the magnitudes go up. Now, we had a 7.5 earthquake here back in the 1950s. 7.5, plus a huge swarm. And it didn't cause an eruption at the volcano. So all this jib-jab about an eruption, just because they closed the roads, and then I go check the channel. And if you go check their About section, they're openly admitting that they put out disinfo. Yeah. Now, I left a comment on their video telling everybody all this nicely, and my comment didn't come up. I left the comment. People told me it wasn't there. I went under my main account because I got my Dutch Sense account and Dutch Sense, right? Two of them, same name. Go in and it's not there. I'm like, what? Like, no way. They got their comments set to approve. So they only are approving comments that support their position. It is what it is, man. It's not going to erupt now. I think there'll be tens of thousands of earthquakes and noteworthy size ones as the magma's punching up. If it ever happens. Now, over on the West Coast, we have a little bit of activity still going on Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. Way less than what we were seeing just a couple days ago. So what happened? Energy transferred. Energy transferred down. You can see which way the arrow points. We moved down here to Utah. Utah started to move now. And over on the West Coast, all our explosions disappeared. Or did they? Hold on. What's this one? A new one? Oh, it's an actual earthquake in Oregon. Wow, somebody got a memo. Anyway, all the explosions fell off the feed. Yeah, that's what it is. Let's go back a couple days. That's what it is, right? There they are. There's the 3 explosions from earlier this week. But anyway, this one's an actual earthquake. They actually have a quake reported there. Same size quake struck down next to Inskip Volcanic Buttes in the North Valley. And we got a swarm up here now. A swarm next to, well, here, let's go pull the coordinates. Wait till you see this. Northern California, what are we? What are you turning into? The USGS EMSC? Start just Northern California. Okay, let's put it in. I have a good idea. I know where we're going, but I just got to go make sure. New swarm broke out last night. Where? Look, guys. Just look. The foot of Mount Lassen, Mount Harkness, right next to Mount Harkness, the old volcano. Ancient. You can still see the top, the crater at the top. Do you see that? But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this. Mount Lassen. We're at the foot of Mount Lassen now. That's the only one of the volcanoes that had not shown a swarm or any activity. Mount Shasta showed it. Mount Hood showed it. The other volcanoes up to the north, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, and Mount Rainier all showed it. Swarm activity. Now, finally, we're down next to Mount Lassen. So all of them, all the big volcanoes up and down the entire West Coast now, all the big well-known ones, have shown some swarm activity in the past 2 weeks. Well, really, past 2 months, because you have to incorporate Shasta from 2 months ago. Oh, what's this? Hold on. Uh-oh. Anytime we see earthquake activity in northwest Nevada, I have to look it up, see where it is, and see, first of all, if it's explosions or what's going on there. Because usually we see earthquake activity here on land before an earthquake strikes out in the ocean. Northwest Nevada. Earthquake strike in northwest Nevada, then an earthquake out in the ocean. Right? Okay, let's go take a look. Ah, yeah, Black Butte. That's not Black Butte. That's Black Butte. Black Mountain Volcanic Buttes. Bottle Hill, Pinto Mountain Volcanic Butte. Which one are we closer to? We're closer to Black Butte. Well, I don't know. It doesn't even really look like a volcano, does it? Oh, wait. We've got old black basalt flows and old lava flows that are broken down over time. There's just remnants of it left over. This is a telltale sign right there. Right there. Otherwise, I would say, it doesn't even really look volcanic at all. Oh, wait. There's some more. Old broken down lava flow. That's ancient. This would have been back when this was all underwater a long time ago. You see these old salt flats? They used to be filled with water like an ocean. And all the volcanoes around it. Imagine what that would have been like when this was all full of water. It would have been like blue like the Caribbean. Amazing. With the volcanoes coming up out of the water like that. Wouldn't that be awesome? Look at it. And look how big the ocean was. It used to go all the way across here, back over to Salt Lake. It used to span all the way up to the north, go up to here. All this was filled with water. And it flowed out down here. Guess what's down here? Look. Hey, what's that? That's the Grand Canyon. Wow, I was told the Grand Canyon was created by the Colorado River. Wow, what do you know? Looks like this broke open and an entire ocean flowed out down where all the sand is. Looks like the professionals lied to us or were full of shit or something, because that's what happened. And by the way, The Colorado River just flows through it now. The Colorado River didn't sculpt it out. The huge flow of an ocean that flowed out through there. And let me show you what else is there. A big break in all the volcanoes where the ocean flowed out. Well, hold on. Do you see it? All of our names on the volcanoes are kind of getting in the way, but there's a big open part right there where you can tell there used to be volcanoes that went across there, and, well, that blew out, or something happened there, and whoosh, all the water flowed out down to the south, and whatever was left up to the north flowed out across the Badlands, and you can see it flowing out from where Yellowstone was. They try to tell us this is from wind erosion. All this, they're trying to tell us this is from wind erosion. But you can zoom in and see the ancient coastline where it used to be. All the way along it where the watermarks are. You see, there's a slight problem. They told us that this was all wind erosion before Google Earth existed. So before they had the aerial flyovers in color, they came out with a cover story for this, saying this was wind erosion, none of this was filled with water. But clearly it was, and you can see which way it flowed out, and you can even see the sand deposits of the Badlands from where it all flowed out. And deposited lots of sand in a certain direction as it flowed out across. It's indisputable. They lied. The professionals, they made it up. Somebody made fiction up on that. It's not wind erosion. But why would they want to hide the ancient inland oceans that were there that drained out? Well, maybe you would start to have to look into what was there before, and you might start to find some stuff that you're not supposed to find. Evidence of an ancient civilization that used to be here before us. Which I found, by the way, and showed you. So, if you didn't see it, you can go check out my video. Make sure to like and subscribe and... Not trying to clickbait you into anything, seriously. Anyway, let's go down to the south and talk about this, Southern California, really quick. We have a warning going in California now. North Bay area up in Napa for up to 5. And Southern California down at Salton Sea. San Diego to Salton Sea for a 4.9 in swarm. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. We have a third warning going out here for a third 5 out at Ridgecrest as well. There's a ring of earthquakes going around Ridgecrest. Do you see that? Do you see all that? We're at the center is Ridgecrest. So there's a warning for 3 earthquakes. One for upper 4 down in Southern California, one in Northern California, Napa Valley, the Bay Area, and one at Ridgecrest. All should happen this week, I think. All should be near 5.0 or right at that level. Once we get over to Kansas, it gets into the 4 level. Once we get over to the East Coast, it gets down to the upper 3 to low 4 level. East Coast, we warned up here. Well, actually, I warned down here first for Georgia. Check Georgia off the list, even though it's an odd earthquake at Dennis, Zebulon, Phoenix. But further up the northeast as well, go watch my video if you want to see the warned areas. Hawaii's got a warning for a 5. Coming back into Hawaii. I haven't heard too much about Mauna Loa. Have you guys heard about Mauna Loa lately? There's a bunch of earthquakes there, but have you seen the media talking about it since their little gaffe? Now the line of earthquakes going over to Kilauea, just like I told you to watch out for. So now we're going off Mauna Loa, we're going back to Kilauea. I said this, and I'm going to stand by it for now. If you have 2 volcanoes that are side by side, and one is currently erupting, and the other one's the biggest on the planet, you would look to the one next to it that's currently erupting to erupt more. As opposed to making the big one next to it go, if you already have a punch point next to it, unless some huge amount of energy comes in, that we wouldn't look for Mauna Loa to go at the same time as Kilauea. We'd look for one or the other. But I could be wrong. I'm not a volcanologist, nor am I even a volcano specialist, or am I even into it that much. I report on the earthquakes, and we're looking for a 5 to come in here next to Kilauea, or just south of Mauna Loa. Right now, magnitude-wise, we are at 3.5, so it has to take a whole step up from where we are. Going back to the start of this, though, speaking of taking a whole step up from where we are, it would be the biggest earthquake in Italy in years if this hits. So for my Italian viewers, guys, look, I'm very skeptical about the professionals right now. If you don't know why, I will tell you once more.
I issued a warning for a 6 to strike here off the coast of Japan for this past week. A 6 hit. The Europeans reported it. The USGS ignored it. Then the USGS got involved, and the Europeans were forced to delete the quake. Then, hours and hours go by, and they came back and put a small little quake there. If they can delete quakes, they can certainly up the magnitudes as well. And if they're doing that to counter what I'm doing, you got to understand what's at stake at this point. For the world of geophysics and the professionals, professional credibility is on the line for big agencies who try to have me arrested. The USGS filed false legal claims against me. Legal claims saying that I stole their logo and that I was using it inappropriately, which calls for 20 years in prison. They lost that legal claim against me. I have the right to use what they said about me. I took a screenshot of what they issued a statement about me on social media, the USGS did, and used my name and called me basically a fraud. And I took a screenshot of what they said about me, which included their avatar on Twitter, and I showed it to everybody and made a sticker out of it to laugh at them. They then filed legal claims and said I stole their logo and was using it inappropriately for my own benefit, making it sound like I stole it and was claiming to be the USGS. And it turns out you have a legal right. If your government mentions you by name and puts it in writing in publication out there, you can use it. If they had written a memo about me using their letterhead, I could scan the whole letterhead and the letter and put it into a book and sell it. I could do anything I want with it. I could make toilet paper out of it. I could make a t-shirt out of it. And they lost their claim against me. They tried to get me put in jail for 20 years. So, would they fake an earthquake to try and scare you and get me to issue a warning? I'm worried that they would. I understand that's a little bit paranoid, but it's better to be open about how I feel than to hide it. And we'll see. We're going to watch for the next 7 days. If nothing happens, I'm calling question to this earthquake. If you get your 6 to 6.5, we'll just let it go. Okay? I want you to be prepared. I want you to be prepared for up to a 6 to 6.5 this week. I don't want you to sleep in your cars and run around and freak out and all that crap. A deep earthquake has been reported down below the Tyrrhenian Sea. I have to trust that it's accurate. I hate having to trust the people who called for my arrest. So, is it accurate? I don't know. I'm issuing a watch on this so that you know to watch for it. If I lived there, here's what I would do. I would have my emergency kit set. I would take all the breakable things down off the shelves, and I'd be ready to run out the door if I lived in a stone stack house. If I live in a new structure, a frame house or something new that's been built in the last few years, I wouldn't even run outside. I would get underneath a table or a desk when the earthquake hits. If the earthquake hits, because there's some question. And to me, there's some question. Everybody else is going to think this is an accurate, actual earthquake. And I almost have to as well, just because I have to. And in which case, I have to tell you to be ready for a 6 to come into Italy in the next few days. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they did fake it. The fact is, it's so sad that I would even have to worry about that. But after the 5.9 2 days ago, deleting it, all cards are on the table for what's possible. All right, guys, I'm going to save this as a video, and we're going to get this out since this is just solely an update, really to tell you what's going on. The areas which have already been hit, if you want to know the full forecast, my video is 1 day ago over on YouTube. Earthquake forecast video. You can't miss it. It's on my YouTube channel. Top front and center. Okay, let's go ahead and get this out to the world. Let's get my screen back on here. Duchess has decorated the stream and made it just an absolutely beautiful sight. Of course, we've got the Halloween colors on now, but she really outdid herself. Check it out. Look at it. We got Vaporwave. We've got some Synthwave. We've got a TV set.
Again, I have no creative capability whatsoever, so I'm actually impressed by this. Okay. Anyway, it's Halloween here in the United States still. One of those weird holidays. I prefer the secular holiday, Halloween. I don't practice the occult version of it. Same for Christmas. Okay, 7:29 p.m., 7:30. We're saving. We're out of here. You guys, much love. Let me remind everybody to have an emergency plan, not just in Italy. But with this, Italy, a perfect example. If we get our shallow or larger earthquake on this, it'll be a perfect example. The last time, it did hit. But the last time, the professionals weren't screwing around with the quakes. They didn't even know about me. Or if they did, only a few did. Much love, everybody. Peace out.